7 days. So Daniel merged into, but we saw that last Tuesday, fixed blog post permission. Yeah, the issue is that there were some discrepancies between the summary admin and the buttons in the editor. And I found the issues and fixed it, related to the blog post variations of the permissions, because blog post has its own controller and checks for specific permissions and not content generic ones. So I updated the views and the code. This one, is that a pull request? I think it's a pull request. Maybe we merged it.
Yes, it's a pull request. I think you merged it.
Okay, updating the gulp pipeline. I didn't really get the difference between the issue that Arjen opened and your
the issue that this is to fix this issue. The issue is that if you use the autoprefixer through cssnano, which is the one that does all the minification, and if you invoke autoprefixer as part of that one, the default is to only remove vendor prefixes but not add the new ones. And I didn't know this, so I changed it to invoke autoprefixer separately through PostCSS.
Okay.
And this, by the way, this also fixes something else, which is that the prefixes were never added for the non-minified version, which I think was very wrong. They should be the same.
Okay. Yeah, actually I didn't see that cssnano was now there. I just thought that you replace cssnano by PostCSS and the parameters were the same. By chance, no, I just missed that. And okay. Orchard.OutputCache, null reference exception, because WorkContext should be used further than just this line, but after that. Fixed. Daniel, this is a pull request that we merged. Okay, on dev, adds URL property to dynamic mesh shapes. Yes, this also, I didn't really understand. So apparently we have a property that we didn't flow into the shape itself. So now it's fixed. Dev branch isolation level is not respected. Good catch. So when I changed session locator to be only transaction manager, I never thought about changing this property in the configuration. So it had no effect. So now it's fixed. It's using the correct class name to change the default isolation level of an Hibernate. And I also copy pasted, cherry picked the PR into 110x, okay, to fix 110x too. Encoding of taxonomies in the dynamic form. So there was an issue with double encoding. So now it's not encoded anymore. It was the title of the taxonomy in dynamic forms. This one is PR from the admin theme. Refactor taxonomies and terms permissions. So this is permissions and how they check, how they're displayed in the menus for the taxonomy. The PR from Hermes, another one from Hermes, implementing the UnassignRoleActivity for the workflows. Fixed tenant restart infinite loop. So a new contributor, David Ridner. There was a state where when a tenant had to be restarted, there could be an infinite loop on restart because it was marked as restarted, but then say, oh, you changed it and restart, but you changed it, but restart, and so on. So I fixed it. Extension are not enabled, if any. Yeah, this one from Zoltan, I assume. Extensions are not enabled anymore if they can't actually be loaded. Okay, so apparently when there is an issue with the feature, it's marked as disabled or it's not reloaded on the later restarts. Exit, it was a very old issue. You see 2000. and we are currently at the 7,000. Maintenix admin menu fix for content item visibility. Yes, it's just checking that we only show the content menu item if there is one item that we can actually edit or publish or do whatever with that. Okay. It was showing it only if you had edit permission, edit own content permission, but it should check for every type because you might have it for a specific type because sometimes are securable. So the permission is only for one type, for instance. And usage of undeclared variables in Link.Edit. Yeah, so Daniel pinged me to fix a bug, and after a week I didn't answer, so he's like, let's ask Jean-Thierry, and Jean-Thierry did it. That's what I do too. When I don't want to do something, I ask Jean-Thierry to do it. That's it. Questions about the changes? Status, Orchard 1, Orchard 2. Orchard 2. Nested sortable editor. So this is the menu, the module, the menu modules I showed last week. Customizing the menu templates in TheTheme. Menu, fixing content preview. Yeah, because I think last week I demoed something and I typed in the body and it was not updating automatically, so I fixed it. There was a jQuery UI conflict also. Creating a new draft when editing items. Okay. First pass, refactoring content item IDs. This is what we'll talk about. So last week when we ended the meeting, I asked about how should we handle identities, and Bertrand and I agreed that we should have the identity, a unique identity, so we don't have to rely on the identity part, and be able to customize the identity on the UI and use tokens, for instance, GUID token by default. This is the meeting notes from last week. You see, add tokens like autoroute, use a GUID token by default. Interesting. I will show you what I did, because I have a talk again with Bertrand after that, because there were some issues when I tried to implement. By the way, I also renamed everywhere during this refactoring where I used ID to be explicit about content item ID. Okay, all the routes, all the controllers, there are lots of changes, not just this commit. The issue being that there could be some conflicts between what we think is the ID and the content item ID. The ID in the database is the primary key, which is an auto-incrementing number. It's a primary key of the object. The content item ID is a logical ID of a content item, and in the database you can have multiple records with the same content item ID, because each record is a version of content item. So if you have 10 versions of a content item, they will have different IDs, but a single content item ID. Okay, and I will use the ID property name in the controllers and in the views, but it was ambiguous sometimes what it was referencing. So I explicitly now say content item ID in all the controllers and the views when it's a content item ID. So lots of changes for that. Sergio still working on the OpenId branch, making a lot of some good progress, and now he's created some recipe, some command, some also settings to change that. So we are seeing the end of the module. That's a good thing. Nick and Jean-Thierry still working on dependency ordering and what is a dependency, and it's complex things, but they're working on that, and we are seeing also good progress. So identity branch, removing content item identity, content identity. So there is no more content identity object. A content item has a content item ID, and it's is identity. The identity is a content item ID which is unique, which means we can use it for references and in the import-export edits. I refactored that, also populate aspect, and you can pass a type directly. CreateUser Command on master, so now there is a command to create a user that we can use in recipes. Why did you change everything here? Oh, just to validate. Yeah. He refactored also the validation for users, so we use the same service to validate a user from the setup, from the recipes, from the commands, and so on. Fixes, cache, tweak, dependency ordering. This is a big PR I included. This is what I will demo. Nick working on a SignalR module. He made a SignalR module and he also made 2 modules. Well, he's working on that on a branch. I don't want it in core. It's called Content Differential and Content Operational Transformation. Okay, that's very explicit. Technically, I think it's just having a live editing UI that multiple people can work at the same time, and you will see the changes from everyone at the same time. And I think it's too much for what we want to do in Orchard. You also did it for Orchard 1 at some point, but I'm not sure anyone is using it. But I don't want to have to maintain this feature. So I'm not sure well, I'm sure so far we won't put it in the Orchard core. The SignalR project, maybe. And the only usage I could see of SignalR right now, and we talked about it a few weeks ago, is to be able to lock a content item page when we did something, to be able to see that there is someone currently editing and we want locking on edition of a content item so that people can't open or can just open it in read-only and they will be notified that someone is currently editing something and they can't do anything. That's the only thing right now I could see useful for Orchard.
What does the Orchard SignalR module do?
It just registers SignalR as a middleware and configures some hubs.
So it doesn't provide any of those features that you mentioned. It's just an infrastructure integration.
Yes. And I asked some questions on no on Skype. I asked him because it registers some middlewares, and I also need to ask the guys from the Espionage team if it makes sense to register the WebSockets middleware for each tenant, or there should be actually one WebSocket middleware for all the tenants. So there are still some questions, but it's a different branch, so I'm letting him work with that. We'll see how it goes, and how we can reuse the SignalR project. But he says it works already. So you see, use SignalR and use WebSockets. This is in the startup of a module, which means every tenant will have a WebSockets middleware. I'm not sure it makes sense. I have to ask the team. Fixes. Antoine created a time zone setting, so now it's supported. There is an editor for a time zone, so we can set the time zone for all the sites. Fixes. This is a branch. This is branch I will skip. This is the view location expander branch from Chantieri Antoine. Fixing body part summary. He made a good ellipse size, so remove the tags and ellipse sizes the summary. This is a very naive implementation, but it's one that works, unlike this one. Title summary. He updated the title summary shape. He defined another displacement for title in the header zone. Okay, for the title part. Interesting. Yes, this is the other branch. Improving list management. What did I do? Oh, some nice routes for the content items also I did. And I don't remember what I did. Okay. Oh yeah, I saw. So, yeah, there was a missing localization from Antoine and something, so I tweaked it. And meta generator filter. We merged the meta tag, the Orchard. So Antoine made a filter that will inject the content generator Orchard. Okay, in the metadata of the site. This is the only way for us to know how many sites are using Orchard, and this is important for us. That's it. So I will show you the identity and talk about the changes. Shouldn't that be a gallery module? Sure, I agree. It can be definitely. He created a branch. Doesn't mean we will merge it in core, but yeah, it should be a gallery module. Or do you mean Signaler or his other modules? Signaler could be infrastructure, so we could have it in core, but yeah, I agree. So let me show you the changes in identity and the new alias module. So it's currently running. This is a custom branch, but it's based on master. Okay, so this is the page. Admin dashboard. So now when I go to content items and I have a post here, I take this article, you can see that the URL is content/content-items/ the ID of the content item /edit. So now the content item here, the big change is that content item ID. This is a string. So the content item ID is no more an integer and a key database. It's a string, and it can be anything. So to define the content item ID, there is a I. Okay, waiting for Visual Studio. Waiting for Visual Studio. I content item ID generator. So there is an interface in content management, content item ID generator, generate unique ID, and you can pass a content item in case you want to generate one that depends on the content item. Okay. The default implementation, let me explain you instead of looking at the code. The default implementation is generating a GUID, and a GUID is actually two long integer, two 128 bits integers. Okay, so what I'm doing is the GUID, which is 32 chars, if you remove the dashes inside the GUID, otherwise it would be a 36. So let's say 32 chars is actually two numbers of 16 bytes. So these two numbers are converted into two longs, okay, because they actually represent two longs. And I then encode them in base 22. So instead of using 16 chars hexadecimal to represent the two longs, this is a GUID, I use 22 chars to represent the two longs. It just makes it use 26 chars instead of 32. But it represents the same unicity, the same number in the end. It's just to have a smaller text. Then in the same default algorithm, I follow this link, I follow this convention for the base. Oh, sorry, base 32, not base 22. Base 22 is actually a thing too. So base 32. No, 32? Yes, one. Yes, 32, not 22. Why did I say 22? So it's using a specific set of digits. The idea being that we are only using something that works in URLs. We don't have to encode them. They're fine. Also, it's removing some ambiguous chars, like there is no I, because the I could be seen as an L or a 1. This way there is no I, there can't be any conflict, you will always see a 1. Okay. There are also all lower cases because it's easier to read and to prevent conflicts than uppercases. For instance, a O in uppercase, and there is no O, you will see could be seen as a 0. And so here we'll know that it's all, if we see something which is round, it's always a 0. And usually they have their strike in the 0, so we know it's a 0 and not O. And this algorithm, so it's a Crockford variation of the base 32. It also removes the U, the letter U, because you could have a FU in the word, and that could be bad. So you remove the U, and we still have all the chars we need and 32. Okay. So it builds. You see, it takes a GUID, gets the two long values and encodes base 32. And this generates that, which is unique. It's uglier than 1, 2, 3, but it's unique. So the idea of the unicity here is that when we do an import-export, we have a unique identifier for the content item. So we can just copy the identifier for the content item. It will also be unique in the other database. And if it's there in the other database, it means it's the same object, so we can update the same object. Then it can be any string as long as it's unique. And it's extensible because someone might not like the fact that it looks like this, either in the URLs or in the XML documents or when you have to type them. So you might want, for instance, to implement it by using the content type and a random number or a randomness plus incremental, whatever you want, as long as you ensure that it's unique. So if you want something like a blog post, colon, and a number, that's fine too. Or you could use, if you know it's because if you have the content item already, if you know there are some properties that you want to use, then you can do it. Or if we want to make, and I assume we will do it, if we want to make a tokenized version of the generator, we can also do it. We could have a module that will provide a token content item ID generator where we'll update the tokens and say what we want inside. Okay, as long as it's unique again, and you have to ensure unicity or a good level of unicity that will be fine with you. So that's the idea. Personally, I don't mind these long IDs in the UI. It's just in the admin, and I usually never use it unless to do some database lookups, and in this case, I will still copy-paste it. So I think it's fine. Questions?
Yeah, I noticed that you still have the ID property, which is an int.
Yes.
On the content item class.
Yes.
That looks like an implementation detail. And I'm wondering if we should have an iContent item and actually use that in most places, and this ID would just be on the content item and not on the iContent item. Yeah, we already have iContent, sure.
No, I'm just thinking if I can remove it or how I can hide it. So we could put it in iContent, that's what you say? Well, put everything else in iContent.
Yeah, we could not put it in iContent, but have, but use iContent more, actually.
So what's bothering you with the ID property?
Yeah, it seems like the ID property is only there because you're using it in persistence, but it should never be used by anybody else.
I'm not sure.
When would you use that ID?
When you do persistence in your controllers and everything, and you need the ID instead of... I understand, you see, well, 12 references, where do I use it? Let me see. I use it to check if it's persisted or not already. And internally to have a first level cache. And this is bad. How to find issues? Yeah, that makes sense. I totally get it now.
Yeah, so it should not be there, and that would help catch issues.
Interesting. Technically it has to be in the class itself for the serializer, but we could just manipulate iContent and
yeah.
Okay, or iContent item. Okay, iContent item, and then manipulate. Okay, don't hide a content item, but manipulate iContent item.
Yeah. Maybe you could have the ID property as internal.
No, I don't know. Well, yeah, but internal. Sorry?
Maybe.
if it's fine, I will check with SQL. I assume it works private reflection, so that will still work. No, I can't, because SQL uses the getter and setters to set the ID. So it has to be public. No, I will expose a better interface.
Yeah.
Content item, which will expose everything but the ID. Okay.
What's the difference between iContent and iContentItem then?
iContent can be content field, content part, any fragment of a content. It's just something of a content item.
Oh, right, yes.
This is why you have content item, which will be iContentItem later.
Okay.
And content element is a base of any content fragment, content field, content part, content whatever you want. It just supports meta properties serialization. It's just a dictionary of things, and this is why you have get and has and things like this.
And by the way, content item doesn't need to specify iContent because content element has it already.
Yes, that's true. Okay, to do. So that's it for the changes in content item ID. But what happens next is we have a unique item. So we can reference the content item. So we have a unique ID. So we can reference a content item using this ID. Okay, it's fine. It's better because we can reuse it everywhere. So if you look at the default layout, and there is a very good usage for that on the theme. So this is with the update, you will see, but here, what I want to do in the default layout is say, inject the menu shape, a menu shape, which is this menu, okay, and cache the menu. There are two ways to do that. Either you call display async new menu to create a menu shape with the properties we want, or we use the tag helpers. Exact same thing. It's just here, it's nicer to the eye to use tag helper, right? Then to reference the menu that is in the website, if I go to content items, and there is a menu called, well, it's not listable by default, you guess, menu, save, it should be listable by default. So if I look at the main menu, which is a menu content item, it has a content item ID. This is this thing, okay? But the issue is that every time we will generate a new website, in the recipe there is a main menu. Oh, I did that. Let me show you. It's lots of things which are related. So sorry, there might be lots of concepts at the same time, but everything is related. So if I look at the recipes, so the idea with the recipe is that we create a main menu with a home page in the recipe. Okay, makes sense? Create from the recipe, create a menu, the menu content item, add a menu item link to the home page, and also define a home page. So where is my recipe? Recipe, CMS, we enable the features, the themes, we set the default themes for the front end and back end, we define the home page route, it's just a demo module, and here there is a content step with this content item. So first you see this content step is nice because this is actually what is stored in database. It's a JSON document representing the content item. It has a content type. It has a content item ID, because if we don't set the content item ID, we don't have, well, we need to set a content item ID, okay? And we don't have to set it there, that's fine. But in this case, we need to. I did that. And I use a custom thing, and I open an issue we'll talk about later. It's a way to generate something in the recipe. In this case, this thing will generate a unique identifier, okay, content item ID identifier. But let's go on. Here, title part, menu items list part, menu items, a menu item in a menu is another content item. So content type, again, content item ID, a link menu item part because this link menu item has a link menu item part, name URL. So this is how we generate currently a menu from the recipe, a menu with one menu item. Okay, and it will have a random unique ID. So we don't know it. So in the layout, when we set up the menu, we can't use the content item ID. We could, but we can't because we don't know it. I could use if I knew the ID, but I can't know it because it's part of the recipe. So the idea is that even though we have a unique content item ID, we need a way to be to know for sure what will the ID be for the new items. So there is this part, which is called Alias part, which will give a logical name to a content item, or logical names to a content item. In this case, the name is main menu. Okay, it's just a property on the content item that is called alias main menu. And with that, so it's like the content item identity of Orchard 1, but it's not about identities. It's about logical names, because we already have an identity.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I see where that could be useful if you really want one of those unique IDs to be generated. But in this specific case, the only thing you care about is that it's unique, right? So why not just make main menu the content item ID?
Yes, that's right. We could have just said menu, main menu, and it would have worked perfectly. Sure. It's another way to do that, and feel free to use it.
Yeah, you wouldn't have the complexity of an alias in that case. Correct.
And but I wanted to use that, and so showing how to use it. I think it's good. But in this case, I don't need to use it. But there are many other cases where you want to be able, after the fact, be able to and after the fact is very important. We talked about it, Bertrand, but I will repeat it to everyone else. Let's say, so after the fact is important, I will go back on it later. So here, we need to be able to use the name.
I'm not saying you never need alias. I'm just saying that in this case, it's overkill.
Agreed. Main menu here, and this way, in the layout, I can use this shape, and this shape is not like other shapes. The other shapes usually have their content computed by a driver and the shape result. Okay, this one, if I say new menu, it's a new shape. It doesn't have anything. It just has a property content item ID. It doesn't have the menu items and the content item loaded. So when I say display, when the shape will be processed and rendered, at this point, it will load the menu items. And to do that, it needs a property, either content item ID, okay, either a content item ID and you pass the content item ID, so main menu or the grid that was generated, or you can pass an alias property and it will resolve actually, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works, is it? Yes, alias property. The alias property will call into an iAlias provider that will find all the alias iAlias manager that will find all the alias providers and find the one that matches the one you're looking for. In this case, this alias is the prefix for the alias part, and main menu is the value of the alias part. So this identifier, logical identifier, will try to find a content item ID, a content item, with the alias part, which value is main menu. Okay, and you can implement as many alias resolvers as you want. There is one by default, if you don't have the alias menu, which is based on the auto route. Let me show you. Sorry, there are many concepts, but they are important to understand. And for a CMS, they are very important actually. So auto route, if I go to services, you see auto route alias provider. So when we have the auto route module, content items can have a nice slug. Okay, and it's a content alias provider, which means every time someone will request an alias using a content alias manager, it will call into this provider, and this provider will say, hey, is the alias you're requesting starts with slug? If it starts with slug, then I will look for all the auto routes I have in memory and find the slug that you're looking for. So you will be able to load the content item by its alias slug. So if menu was routed with a slug, then we could request it by it. Like a blog post, a page, anything that has a route, or sorry, not a route, then you can, from any view, reference it using slug colon and the name of the URL of the thing. Okay, you don't have to know the content item ID. The route is a logical ID and it's unique. Okay. In the case of main menu, there is no route. This is why we use alias part to be able to give it a logical identifier, because we don't have a route. We could give it a route, but then it would be routable, and I don't want a menu to be routable. We don't want to display just the menu as a content item. So this is why alias is important. Alias is also important, like going back on the recipe, because you can change it after the content item has been created. The content item ID cannot be changed after the fact. For instance, I have 10 versions of my content item, and then I decide my content item ID, which is, for instance, menu, main menu. Okay, let's say we gave this name, menu, main menu. Okay, let me type it here. Let's say I give it a unique name, menu, main menu. Okay, and 1 year after, or 10 days after the fact I created this main menu, I want to change the menu type, the menu title. I want to call it menu principal. Okay, I don't know. I'm just switching languages. And then the ID will remain the same. Or if I call it foo menu, whatever, if I change the title. The issue there is that you might have the content item ID which won't match what it represents. And there might be some conflicts. That's fine, it's a technical ID, but you gave it some meaning, and now the meaning doesn't have the same meaning as after. And you can't change the content item ID, because if you have 10 versions of a content item, you will have to change all the versions content item IDs, and you might have referenced this content item by other content items, and you don't know which ones. So you can't change the content item ID. You will have the reference integrity. Does it make sense? The referential integrity will be broken. So you can't change content item ID. This is why we also part with a logical identifier that can be changed afterwards. Okay? But feel free to use that if the content item ID, if you are sure about the fact that it will remain the same, and that's fine by you. That's okay. Okay, so that's why we need also an alias part, to be able to change logical names over time. Everything makes sense? So that's it. Yep.
Are we recording this now?
Yes.
Good, because I may have to go back and listen to this again.
Sorry. It was not obvious? No?
No, it's fine. I couldn't pay attention all the time.
Ah, sorry. Okay. I think that's all about content identity. Oh, yes, something I want to talk about. I filed an issue. I have a temporary implementation. Temporary is very important because I don't like what it does, but I needed it. I filed an issue about recipes and being able to extend it. So here what I want is from a recipe being able to have dynamic values. You see here UUID, but have anything, and it's extensible. Okay, so to be able to have, I don't know, fake name or 1+1, some scripting possibilities into the recipe, because it might be dynamic or it might depend on other objects there. Like I might want that this value to be the same of this value. Okay, so I need variables. Okay, and also maybe we want to inject something from parameters. When we run a recipe, we might want to run a recipe with some parameters. So be able to reuse parameters from the external world. Makes sense, right? So let me show you the issue. So I made this, which is very simple. When we evaluate a recipe, whenever it's a property with a string, if it starts with square brackets, I'm evaluating it as just match the string from a provider. It's very simplistic solution. It was just to implement this UID. So what I open is this thing, and I will give you a link. It's very important to look at the link. Issues, support parameterized recipes, and I put a link because this is exactly what Azure does. If you are worked with Azure and how it works internally, and I can tell you, there is a thing called ARM. ARM is a service that accepts ARM templates, Azure Resource Manager. An ARM template is describing a list of Azure resources like website, caching, VPN, whatever in Azure you can create is based on this JSON format. And this JSON format represents content items, resources, with all their properties, and a property can have a dynamic value, okay? Like this. Concat the parameter site name with the string -plan. And site name, in this case, is a parameter, which means it's a value that comes from the external world, from the client of the JSON document. So in this case, the parameter could be provided by the Azure portal, okay? And the parameter is defined in the ARM template itself by describing the name, the type, and default values, and you can also have constraints and type of editors you want, but fine, okay? And you can also have a variable list, which are things that will have, example, you see this thing, concatenating multiple strings from parameters, and this way in your JSON document, you can just call connection string, and you don't have to recall this thing again and again. Or two JSON documents can have two JSON fragments in the same JSON document can use the same variable if they want to have the same value. Okay, so that's the idea. I think we should get inspiration from that. I really like how it works, and so two things: be able to define parameters, and also this way in the recipe, in the setup screen, when we select a recipe, we could have then when we say setup, we could show a screen with all the parameters that the recipe needs. For instance, blog post, blog name, or site. Well, site name is already there. I don't know, default colors or page size, whatever you want, as long as it makes sense for your recipe. Okay. Imagine that you are a SaaS provider. You provide the same application for all your customers. You then have a custom setup screen just because you have a nice recipe, and you can define the billing contact, the name of the company, the logo, and things like this just because the recipe requests it. And then when it's done setup, you have your website running. Okay, so that's just extensions that we could have. Make sense?
Very much. This has been on my wish list for Orchard 1 for a long time.
Yes, so Sergio also wants it, right? So what did I miss in the chat? Oh, fuck you, you don't, okay, if you... Okay, so I missed nothing. Yes, would great system. Yes, exactly that what I'm thinking. And then, so if you want to go on this discussion, just 1 minute. I was wondering, please comment on the issue if you have ideas, or speak now. I will just emit 1 or 2 ideas. For instance, something I thought about was we could use. I will do it intentionally, and I know what Bertrand will say. So Bertrand, feel free to say what you have to say. I will start with JavaScript : and we could have use just JavaScript. So we could use variables like variable site name plus, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 or a number. Okay, and this will just be okay. We have a string. It starts with JavaScript : so we need to execute that as JavaScript. What could it be, Bertrand?
I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say.
It starts with C.
Oh, C#.
C#. Why use JavaScript when we have C#? So we could use C# by default. So maybe there is a syntax we could use to detect what it is, but I don't think we should be extensible to support any language. doesn't make sense for me. Or maybe, why not? After all, like we have Alias or Slug, we could have anything like this. And if we see C#, then let's just evaluate it as C#. If we see JavaScript, as long as there is an engine. Or it could be a simple evaluator. I don't know. It depends on how we want to encode it. Or just use that and assume it's C# and say foo.
We'll have scripting engines like in Orchard.1, right? So.
Yes, but yes, we could still have the same notion of scripting engine, but the issue is script. Yeah, I don't know. You still want the same notion, or do you want to? I don't know. Yeah, that could make sense. Yeah,
that's pretty sweet.
But then I want it then to be a site-wide feature setting, like what is the scripting engine you want to use. I am using JavaScript, I'm a scripting engine. I'm using C#, I'm a scripting engine. Yeah. I don't know. Because we have workflows, we will have recipes, we will have widgets. Do you want to use the same language in every of them? Or does the string that you type contain the logic to define what scripting engine to use? Like this?
We might want to be less all over the place than we were with Orchard.1, because at some point we even had Ruby scripting.
Yeah, so and it's still the default. Sorry. Well, oh no. Yeah, it's still but it's not as much Ruby as it used to be. It used to be the real Ruby or something, and now it's just a simple parser. Yeah. That parses methods and Boolean operations. But
yeah.
So the two containers here are C# and JavaScript, and we use the two of them for the good reasons, because Orchard is made in C#. So if you build in Orchard, you know C#.
Yeah, if you had only one, it should be C#.
Yep, and JavaScript otherwise because designers and we are sure that they use JavaScript. So if they want to edit some things in the admin and they don't know it's C#, actually they just don't care about developing Orchard. They are just editing the site, the content types. They are just Orchard users. Then JavaScript is better for them, probably because it's easier to grasp and there is less typing. But var, foo, that work too. C# has more ceremony because all the system.math.max, you see, instead of math.max. So, but as long as we are extensible, that's good. So that would be nice to be able in every context, like any workflow activity, any widget layer, any recipe step, to be able to define what's the language I'm using. That will simplify the work. So that could be as simple as that. Boom. C#, let's say, sorry, CS and a block, and we evaluate the block. Something like this. So yeah, so please speak now or in the issue, because I think we will want that at many places. So let's agree on what it should look like. And it will be extensible, so we'll have providers to provide logic. So like UID, the nice thing is that it will work in C# and JavaScript, so we can have extensions for the scripting language to provide methods and callbacks. Okay, so the same UID callback will be available in C# and JavaScript, the same thing, because it's the same logic to execute. It will be server-side execution, either C# or JavaScript. Okay, so that will be great, I think. That's it. I'm done. Just for information, you might have noticed it, and I open an issue and it's public on GitHub. We are working on trying to implement a blog, so that's why I have the blog theme. We are porting a custom theme that we found on the internet. I mean Antoine and I are mostly working on that, and I'm trying to. It's a very interesting exercise. Every time I build a website, I'm like, I should build a website more often with Orchard, because you learn what what is going in your way for building a site. So I found many issues, many limitations already that I had to fix. Like there was no alternate for list with the content type, or something was broken, or many things. And just to show you the layout here, simple layout using the links and everything. Bootstrap navigation, very simple, nothing to say here. Here I can still inject my menu, so very nice. I can inject my menu like the default one, and I can override how the menu is rendered, how the menu item is rendered. And actually I didn't change that, so I should not even touch it. Then I created a section called header. That will be the header of any page, so that a content here can, using a tag helper zone name header, so you target a specific zone and you inject that in a specific layout zone. In this case, it's when we render the blog content, we inject a custom image as a big header, and the title of the blog and description of the blog. And then this is something new I had to create for Orchard 2. It's not in Orchard 1. So the idea is that I have many shapes in this blog. I have a list and a blog body part and other things that you could have. In this case, the body is the description. I already rendered it as part of the header by accessing the body of the body part. So I don't want it to be rendered again. So instead of creating a placement, I okay, remove the shape which is called body part, and then rendered all the other shapes from the content zone. Just something here.
OMG, that is great.
So what I'm trying to do is, there are many things in Orchard 1. You have to do it this way because this is the way it works, okay? And you have to go around some issues. But now I'm trying to do what's the best way for me to express what I want to do. And if it's not there, I will change it. Because it won't break anything to do things like that now. Okay, it's better to you see what I mean? What is the best way? What do I want to express? Let's express it. If I have nothing to express it, let's do it now. But yeah, this could be done even in Orchard 1 actually. Display a thing, content, blog post summary is very simple. Just get the title. Oh, this is also very nice in Orchard 2. So this is a link, and you can say display for, edit for, whatever. And if you provide a content for the link, it will use your content. If you don't provide any content, it will use a display text. So if you want a link to your content item, you just say display for content item. It's like HTML.display or item display link or item edit link. But now it's a tag, display for content item. And here I say, oh, for the link, use this content. And I can access the title and the subtitle, which is a field and things like this.
That's pretty sweet. That's why display -4. That doesn't sound very.
This is very HTML-y. Why do you? Oh, I will explain you why.
Oh, it's the display part.
You don't like the display part?
Yeah, it display.
Yeah, because there is edit, there is admin.
Oh.
Display. This is like in Orchard 1. Item display, edit display, admin display. Create display. We can change and wash -4 because the standard syntax in ASP.NET MVC is, for instance, to do ASP-4, and you pass what you want to display for. So I'm like, I don't know. It's.
So is this saying that you want to display a link for content item?
Yes. To display it.
You are in display type display.
Display type display. No, I just want to call the display action of the content item.
Oh. Yeah.
I can show you.
So okay. So I guess what confused me is that it doesn't have the word URL in there.
It's a link. It's not just a URL.
Or href or
yes,
but it is going to display as href.
Yes, and this is the same syntax in MVC. You don't see href. You see something SP4.
I know that. That's very confusing.
Okay. So href4. That will be less confusing.
or display href for.
Or display URL for.
It's not just about, again, it's not just about the href. It's provide everything in A for content item. It's the href, it's the content. Let's look at that. If I don't say anything, so it's not just, it's a component. It's not just the, so A display for equals content item. Boom. Okay, wait. Save. I need to delete that. F5. And didn't work. But usually it works.
I think you can't have a self-closing A.
Yes, but it's system. Okay. Boom. It's even worse. I don't know what I broke, but this is what it's supposed to do. And I use it all over the place in the admin. All over the place. Let me show you. Content.summary. Admin. Oh no, I'm not rendering it. No, I'm not rendering the title. Or in this case, I'm rendering custom actions, so I don't know. But you see, if you want to represent a specific attribute, you can. It will use them.
So just to understand, that display for attribute, it expands to more attributes when it's rendered?
Yes. It's not expand to more attributes. It triggers your own logic to render the full tag.
Okay, so you can that thing could inject markup inside of the tag too. Okay.
Exactly.
And does it? Like in the case that you showed before?
Yes, you can insert anything because you own the tag rendering. You can reuse everything which is in the tag, the content, the attributes, but you own the rendering. Let me show you. Shape tag.
So you can render things before and after whatever's in the...
Yes, shape tag helper. So in this case, so this is how you trigger the attributes. I could show you the one that I'm displaying. Actually, it will be better. So display management, content management, display, content link tag helper. So it's a content link tag helper which implements tag helper. You define for the editor what triggers it. So every time you see an A, if it has the admin, display, edit, remove, or create thing, which is admin for, display for, edit for, remove for, and so on, then execute this thing. And execute is actually called process, or process async. And you have the output, and you render what you want. And you can reuse the attributes which already were defined. You see here, I'm defining the href, but I'm also at the end, whatever happens, you see?
Yeah, so my impression is that there is a little too much magic going on there, and it's pretty hard to understand exactly what's going on without looking at this code.
But
one of the things that's bothering me is what happens if you specify multiple of more than one of those attributes. If you specify both display for and edit for example, what is going to happen?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. One only will be taken into account.
Right, but you could.
But
so,
it's okay.
Whereas if you were more explicit about what you're doing, if you actually expanded the href explicitly to say, okay, href is my display URL for that content item, and then the rest, okay, I do want to provide context to what's inside of that tag using the content item properties, but here you have two things that seem to be merged in the same object.
Okay.
So you have the display URL and you have the content item itself providing.
So what we can, so we need a tag or attribute to trigger the behavior.
Yes.
Okay. Then we can do href equals, or href, I don't know, for display. We can have.
It seems like right, yeah. But you could also have context for whatever, or something along those lines. But not conflating the display URL thingy and the content item itself as.
Okay.
Does this make sense?
I will give you 10 minutes or one day, and can you please send me an email and when you have an idea
Okay.
what you will exactly what you would like to be able to type, because we can do anything, right?
Yeah, I probably need to check out what MVC is doing.
Please, yeah,
because I don't have that context.
And what I intend to do is also every module which exposes this tag helper, we will document them. And this is what I'm trying to do for every module that I'm creating now. Like yesterday, for instance, I was talking briefly with Daniel about shape caching. And he asked me a question, and I didn't remember, because I did that a year ago. So I'm like, do it now. Document that. So I documented. Let me show you how it looks like.
Yeah, that's a side consideration, but is there a way we could get the documentation to be somehow in modules?
Let me show you. So what I did, dynamic cache, boom. The README. So I don't want it to be the final documentation, but at least related to this module, how does this module work? How is it implemented? What does it provide? Does it have, you see, what can I type?
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Do I have tag helpers? So this is per module. And then we can have a global documentation that will reuse some of this content, but make it more a general documentation, how to deploy, and which are not module specific. But at least not to forget about the things. Like I did this module. What is the one where I have a view component? Content types. Content types. There is a view component in the content types module that you can reuse in other modules for the admin to render the list of the content types. It's called select content type. Here is the sample usage. Okay,
that's great. Yeah, you know how there is a certain CMS that has documentation as a feature. So you just enable that feature and you have documentation extracted from all the code that is in there, including third-party modules. If you have them.
No.
You don't know about that? I can show you.
Thank you. It's not decent, apparently.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought it was not, because otherwise you would have mentioned it. That's weird. Okay. Good.
Yeah,
yes.
The documentation website is actually just an instance of the CMS with that feature enabled. That's it.
I see. That's an idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea, if I may say so myself.
Yeah. So also, completely off topic, you remember 2 weeks ago, together we talked about having a theme. Well, you mentioned the idea to me at lunch about having a theme inside the tenant site, the tenant folder, so that you can have each tenant its own theme. Very nice idea. I filed the issue on GitHub. Yesterday I triaged all the old issues. We have the exact same issue from a year old. So we already talked about it and said it was a good idea. And I completely forgot about it. Crazy. So probably we had the same discussion a year ago. But for information,
so I remind you about the documentation idea in a year.
Please file an issue right now. So I don't forget, and someone will do that, because Thierry and Nick, they are just looking for ideas like this and do things crazy. So they will do they are already talking about doing your idea about per site, per tenant site. And actually, I will also mention that 1 week after we talked about it, Lombic released this exact module because they already have it. I don't know what to look for, but so Lombic tweeted about it. So they have a page explaining what it's on GitHub and Bitbucket. They have a module that provides that provides theme and modules per tenant. So they have it for Orchard 1. So feel free to use it.
Okay, I'm filing it now.
So what did I miss here? What did I miss? No, I prefer my syntax. So there is. Okay, questions, comments? Daniel, maybe you wanted to do a demo, or maybe you want to do it. No, you don't want. No, you don't want, sorry. There is nothing to show. Sipke, any comments? We didn't hear you. No, Sipke doesn't want to comment anything. Yes, but I don't know where you work these days, but your microphone is really bad.
Yes, sorry about that. It's temporary.
I hope so. Do you like all these ideas? I'm sure you like it.
You know I like it.
You know what? Nick yesterday was on Skype with me, and he's like, oh, sorry, yeah, he was on Skype with me, and I was watching the video where I was showing the dynamic cache because I wanted to know what was the dynamic cache doing to document it a year ago. And while I was watching the video, Nick made a comment in the chat, and he said, a public chat, okay, you were there. When will Sipke contribute to Orchard 2? So I copy-paste. I took a screenshot and I pasted it to Nick's Skype just to remind him that a year ago he asked when will Sipke contribute to Orchard 2.
It's been a year already.
To Orchard 2. Okay, don't worry, just 2. So maybe it's been a year already, more than a year that we've been working on Orchard 2. So almost time to contribute, Sipke. I'm sure I have nothing to do, so lots of free time. Okay. Just quick joke. Good. No other questions? Comments? No? All is good? Perfect. So, see you on Thursday. Thanks, everyone. Please file issues and comment on the IDs you have. Okay? Or ping me on Skype to talk. It's even better. Thanks, everyone.